Hi everyone, it's Coach Fred here, and today we're going to be talking about angles. And this is kind of a follow-up to what we did in class today, but let's define an angle first. So today we came up with a description of an angle as a figure formed by two rays with the same endpoint. So here's an example of an angle. So we've got a ray AB, and we've got a ray AC, and when they share the same endpoint, then it creates an angle. The angle, though, is the rotation from one way to the other. So it's the rotation from one ray to the other. And that's different. It's not like a length, it's a rotation. We also said that angles are measured between 0 and 180 degrees. So we're going to be talking about 0 degrees to 180 degrees. We can name this angle BAC. We could also name this angle CAB. Now what we had to notice is that that vertex, we call that the vertex, has to be in the middle. Now we also could call this angle A, but I don't want you to do that because it can get very confusing when I look at multiple angles in one picture as to what angle you're referring to. So we'll talk about that one in class, okay? Now that's when I name the angle. If I want to find the measure of the angle, we'd put a little m in front of it and say the measure of angle BAC. And that's going to be the actual measure of it. So I might say the measure of angle BAC is 40 degrees, okay? And we have to remember that angles are always measured in degrees. So they're measured in degrees. All right, so we did talk about this today, and we measured angles. So let's talk about congruent angles. There's that word congruent again. We do need to know that congruent is just another way for saying that shapes are equal. So angles that have the same measure are called congruent. All right, now we can say that the measure of angle BAC and the measure of angle BAC, we'd say that they are congruent by using the congruent symbol. And that just means that they have equal measure. So if we're going to mark angles congruent, we're going to mark using those hash marks like I just did there as well. So congruent angles mean that they have the same measure. All right, a couple other things we need to, vocab words we need to be comfortable with. Adjacent angles. So adjacent angles share a common vertex and a common side, but have no interior points in common. So interior points are the points inside the angle. So like this, here's an angle. Interior points would be anything inside. So for example, angle XWY is next to angle YWZ. So YWZ is this angle. YWZ, that's that angle. And then XWY is this angle right here. You can see they have a common vertex, which is W, the middle letter, and they share a common side. That common ray is WY. So that's in both of the angles. Okay, so that's adjacent angles are just angles that are right next to each other. All right, so again, here, let me just make sure you understand the difference between the interior and the exterior of an angle. This is the interior angle, anything inside the angle. Okay, that's the interior of the angle, whereas everything on the outside would be around it. So all of this stuff out here is the exterior of the angle. So that may come into play when we define different things about angles. All right, the last thing that we talked about was how we can classify angles. So we said that an angle, if it was small and cute, meaning between 0 degrees and 90 degrees, then we call it an acute angle. Kind of like Coach Fred, small and cute. Small and cute. So acute, meaning it has to be less than 90 degrees. An angle that measures 90 degrees is called a right angle. Okay, so that's going to be an angle that looks like that. Now remember, we need the box there to indicate that it is a 90-degree angle. We can have an angle that measures from 90 to 180 degrees. That's called an obtuse angle, and we measured some of those today. That's an obtuse angle. And then the last angle we can have is an angle that measures 180 degrees, and we call that a straight angle. And it is going to look something like that. It's going to form a line. But we need to know that the angle is the rotation. Straight angles, that angle looks like kind of like the horizon. All right, guys, so that's it on our definitions. Now I want you to go on to video number 1 on the angle addition postulate. Have a great day.